photographers. I was cycling across France when Fuji dropped the X-T3, and now that we're back in Toronto, they've sent one over for me to check out. Now first, let's compare the X-T3 against my very well-used X-T2, mostly with a view to see if it's worth upgrading. And today I'm going to describe the differences. In my full review, I'll put the new features to the test. If you were hoping for the X-H1's in-body stabilization, you won't find it here. But otherwise, this camera takes a lot from the X-H1 and adds several features, particularly for video enthusiasts. And if Fujifilm's track record is any indication, we'll probably see some of those features appear in upcoming firmware releases on both of those models. My general upgrading advice is not to bother, unless there's a significant change in the features that you use. So yes, video shooters should upgrade. For stills, the focus speed and burst might sway you, but the difference won't be noticeable in most situations. The X-T3 uses a new 4th generation X-Trans sensor, APS-C sized, 6240 by 4160 resolution. That's about 26 megapixels, up slightly from the X-T2's 6000 by 4000 pixel resolution, 24 megapixels. Fuji also says the X-T3 uses a new faster processor, which likely means there are X-T3 features that won't make it into the X-T2 firmware. That apparently also requires a larger manual in size, but with a small reduction in page count. The cameras are roughly comparable in size and weight. The X-T3 is a few millimeters deeper and about 30 grams heavier. Both are weather sealed. This is the silver version of the X-T3. It's also available in black. The X-T2 isn't available in silver, but in a dark gray graphite. I think the silver accents provide a stylish retro look. The control layout is very similar. The X-T3's ISO dial is identical except for the ISO 160 setting, and the X-T2 has 7 knurled rows, the X-T3 5. The drive mode collar is the same, but the grip point is not as wide and slightly larger. It seems easier to manipulate. The control dials on the other side seem identical, again except for a slightly taller shutter speed dial. Compared to the X-T2, the diopter is moved a little farther back on the X-T3 and now pulls out to adjust. The shutter button may be slightly softer on the X-T3. The shutter sound is quieter. They are identical across the front and the back. All the controls are the same. And compared to the silent X-T2, the back dial of the X-T3 clicks when pressed, as does the front, providing more haptic feedback. The vertical tilt release on the LCD is a push on the X-T3, which I find easier than the slide on the X-T2. On the X-T3, the left side port cover has a release, so it can be removed for easier access to the ports. The X-T3 includes 3.5mm jacks for both external mics and headphones. The X-T2 only has a mic input. The X-T2 has a remote release connector. The X-T3 does not, but both support an optional USB remote. The micro B USB on the X-T2 has been upgraded to Type-C on the X-T3. The X-T3 has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Only Wi-Fi on the X-T2. Bluetooth provides time and location syncing as well as improved image transfer. Both support UHS-2 type SD cards in both slots. Both use 126S type batteries. Both come with the EFX8 flash. LCD resolution is 1040 dots for both. The X-T3 has a touchscreen. Articulation is the same up and down for landscape mode and up for portrait. Resolution of the OLED viewfinder has increased from 2.36 million dots on the X-T2 to 3.69 on the X-T3. Eye point remains the same. It may be back slightly from the X-T2. Fuji Canada did not yet have a battery grip to loan me for the X-T3, but promise it will be available soon. Both have a performance boost mode to increase the finder refresh to 100 and increase autofocus speed. Boost mode reduces battery performance from a rated 340 to 260 images on the X-T2. On the X-T3, it drops from 390 to 310. So yes, Even with the same battery, the X-T3 increases range about 15%. Now for the X-T2, the grip adds the headphone jack, increases the burst speed, and increases video recording time. Now all of those features are available without a grip on the X-T3. Let's have a look at a couple of performance improvements, and then I'll do a screen-by-screen scrub through the menus. On the X-T3, this is firmware 1.01. On the X-T2, 4.1. Let's start with the light of a single candle. The X-T2 here with a custom white balance and the standard Provia film sim. The ISO max is at 12,800 for video, so I'm using a 1/30 shutter. But let's see 1/60. Now the same settings on the X-T3 provide a cleaner image with better color. Now, but let's try switching the X-T3 to the Eterna film sim. That's added more shadow detail. And then with the X-T3's max video ISO of 25.6. And that's a substantial improvement. I used autofocus continuous for this, and you see that the X-T2 keeps chasing something. And although face detect on the X-T3 only teased me, the AFC looks pretty solid. I rarely see it in real-life situations, but rolling shutter can be an issue for fast pans and quickly moving objects. This is the X-T2. On the X-T3, there's clearly a reduction in the bendy effect, but it's still apparent. I'm starting with a full reset on the menus. Both have 5 screens of language support. I'm going to use English. For image size, both have 3 aspects with 3 sizes, as detailed at the bottom of the screen. All are slightly larger on the X-T3. As a result, the 64GB card can save fewer images. Image quality selection remains the same, Fine plus RAW is the default. From now on, I'll skip over selections where the two are the same, like RAW compression settings. And the X-T3, like the XH1, includes a new film simulation, Eterna Cinema. On the X-T3, a new adjustment is available for acros and monochrome to vary the color tone from an amber sepia look to a cool blue. For color images, the X-T3 adds the color chrome setting from the GFX50 medium format camera for richer color detail in shadows, off, weak, and strong. Both cameras have dynamic range settings 100, 200, 400, and auto. The X-T3 adds the D-range priority setting, an alternate way to increase the dynamic range. On the X-T2, dynamic range 200 is available from ISO 400, dynamic range of 400 from ISO 800. On the X-T3, 200 is available from ISO 320, 400 from 640. The remainder of the IQ settings are the same. Now by default, the X-T2 has 91 focus points. That can be increased to 325. That looks like this, with the larger center points using phase detect. The X-T3 has 117 with 2 more rows and can be increased to 425 with 4 more rows. All the focus points on the X-T3 use phase detect, and they cover more of the screen at the top and the bottom. Size and area settings are the same. In manual focus, the X-T3 has a 4th assist mode, digital microprism. I'm sure that some of you will find this familiar or useful. The X-T3 adds a 4th color, yellow, to the focus peaking options. And on a 3rd focus settings screen, the X-T3 has the touchscreen mode selections, tap to snap, focus set, area select, and off. For drive settings, both support focus bracket, a recent add to the X-T2, with the same frames, step, and interval settings. On the X-T2, high-speed burst can be set to 8, 11, or 14 frames. On the X-T3, 8 and 11 are supported with the mechanical shutter. I like the new info panel displaying the buffer capability. A 20-frame burst is supported using the electronic shutter mode. Selecting it here switches to the electronic shutter. Then, With a 1.25 crop and the electronic shutter, 10 to 30 frames are supported. More detail in my full review of the X-T3. On the X-T2, low speed is 3, 4, or 5 frames. The X-T3 adds 5.7. The X-T3 has a Sports Finder mode. When on, the screen shows a 1.25 crop, but because the area outside the image is visible, it enables you to see the subject just before it enters the screen. In this mode, which does not support the electronic shutter, only a 17 megapixel image is available. The X-T2 has 3 shutter modes: mechanical, electronic, and combined. Electronic supports shutter speeds up to 1/32,000. The X-T3 has 6. In addition to the full silent electronic shutter, electronic with front curtain, which does have a mechanical sound component but has a shorter blackout. Combined, as the X-T2, combined with electronic front up to 1/8,000 and combined electronic front up to 1/32,000. Let's leave the shutter at electronic and go back to Preshot, available on the X-T3, and enable continuous high on the drive collar. Not sure why those settings aren't automatically enabled like with the sports mode. With Preshot, the camera saves images starting just before the shutter is fully depressed, and that should overcome any shutter lag inherent either in the camera or your shutter finger. Flash settings are the same. Now on the X-T3, the movie menu has 5 screens, up from 2 on the X-T2. Incidentally, with the drive collar in video mode, the X-T3 menu defaults to the movie settings. The X-T3 video menu has many of the same functions as the stills menu, but they are set and saved independently, as indicated by the movie icon. There are 2 video codec options, H.264, which is pretty much today's standard, and H.265, the new high-efficiency video codec. With HEVC, there are 2 compression options, All Intra, which saves more individual frames for easier editing, and Long GOP, group of pictures, which is a more efficient playback codec. With HEVC and All Intra, resolutions from Full Cinema 4K, 17:9 aspect ratio, usually called DCI, to Full HD 16:9, the video aspect ratio, are supported. And depending on resolution, frame rates from 24 to 60 with drop frame and non-drop frame options are available. Drop frame is a frame counting timecode method used in NTSC systems. That includes a long GOP 4K video setting at 60 frames. And depending on those settings, data rates up to 400 megabits are available for 4K, up to 200 for HD. Most 4K modes capture from the whole sensor. I'll detail in the full review. The X-T2 maxes out at 16:9 4K, 30 frames with a data rate of about 100 megabits. The X-T3 can record continuously for up to 30 minutes in all formats, although at 400 megabits that will require 128 GB or 2 64 GB cards. The X-T2 is limited to 10 minutes in 4K, but the grip increases that to 30 minutes. Now on to some new tech jargon for video. The X-T2 can record 8-bit with 420 chroma sampling on SD. The HDMI out supports 8-bit with 422. The X-T3 with H.265 can record 10-bit 420 on SD and output 10-bit 422 to the HDMI. That is best in class. On SD, both save video files in 4 GB chunks, even on UHS-2 cards. At 400 megabits, that's slightly over a minute per chunk. Both have the same high-speed settings for up to 5 times slow motion. Like stills, when shooting black and white on the X-T3, there's a color shift adjustment. Interframe noise reduction is available for some recording settings, but the manual warns it may cause ghosting when the camera is moved. Both cameras support F-Log, Fuji's extended dynamic range video recording mode, and Fuji provides a free LUT lookup table to convert the footage recorded with F-Log. On the X-T3, it's a simple on-off, and worth noting that when on, many other settings, including film simulations and tone adjustments, are not available. On the X-T2, F-Log is selected as a recording option and can be applied to either or both the SD or HDMI external recordings. Both cameras have Movie AF mode. The X-T3 also has AF continuous custom settings, with selections for sensitivity and speed, as well as face and eye detect settings. Both have a manual focus assist, expanded and peaking, and focus check to switch to expanded view when the focus ring is adjusted. On the X-T2, it's set on the focus menu. On the X-T3, an independent setting on the movie menu. On the X-T2, the 4K movie output can be sent to either SD card or HDMI, along with the F-Log options I just covered. The X-T3 can record 4K to SD card and HDMI simultaneously, only HDMI or 4K to one and HD to the other. On the X-T3, the HDMI standby quality can be set, outputting 4K only when recording. The X-T3 added a zebra setting option, with either left or right-facing stripes and settings from 50 to 100%. The Ninja Inferno's waveform agrees with the accuracy of that setting. The X-T2 does not have zebra, so I've used the Screen Setup Display Custom setting and enabled Live View Highlight Alert. That alert appears several stops above 100%. The X-T2 has a simple audio setting with levels from off to 20. On the X-T3, internal and external recording levels can be independently set with levels from +6 to -30 decibels. The X-T3's limiter can be disabled, and there are wind and rumble filters. The headphone level is set here. On the X-T2, it's on the Setup Sound Settings menu. The X-T3 has an extensive menu of timecode settings and a selection of tally light options to indicate that the camera is recording, with front and back, solid and flashing options. And the X-T3 has movie silent control. When turned on, touch the movie set on-screen button for a menu to set shutter speed, aperture, exposure compensation, ISO, audio levels, to activate the wind filter, set headphone volume, select a film simulation, and white balance. Both the joystick and the control pad can be used to change the settings. Now that enables those settings to be changed silently, and it disables the physical controls. The side benefit of this is that the video settings are stored, so when you switch to stills mode, the physical settings are used, and in video mode, the silent settings are used. And this makes switching modes super simple. And note that this is the same as the XH1. On the setup menu, both cameras have the My Menu option. The X-T3 has the additional options available from its menu. Selections from the setup menu are extremely limited on both. In screen settings, the X-T3 provides color adjustments for both the viewfinder and the LCD that are not available on the X-T2. The X-T2 calls the feature Preview Picture Effect, and on displays the actual exposure settings in manual exposure mode. On the X-T3, the feature is called Natural Live View, and turning it on has the same effect. Display custom settings are the same. On screen 3, the X-T3 adds touchscreen mode, and on screen 4, options for image transfer order and guidance messages. On the X-T3, a large indicators mode has been added, which increases the size of some display items, and of course, there's a full customization panel to select which items are displayed. The X-T3 also has a contrast adjustment. In addition to high, standard, and low, a dark ambient lighting provides a darkroom-like red display. The X-T3 custom function settings include the 4 swipe motions, and compared to the X-T2's 5 pages of custom selections, the X-T3 offers 7, adding color chrome effect, derange priority, sports finder mode, pre-shot, IS mode, zebra setting, movie silent control, AWB lock, auto image transfer, pairing destination, and Bluetooth. Both have the same extended high ISO. The X-T3's low ISO is 80, 100, and 125. The X-T2's is 100, 125, and 160. Now, although I would not consider that it makes a difference, as I expect Fuji's quality control to be identical, my X-T2 is stamped Made in Japan, the Review X-T3 is made in China. For video shooters, I find the X-T3 to be a very compelling upgrade, and for stills, while there are some clear benefits, the X-T2 remains a very competitive camera. Now, please let me know in the comments if there's something that I've misstated or that I've overlooked. I do reply to relevant questions and civil comments, and I enjoy interacting with you. So shoot until your memory card is full and your battery is empty, and if this channel and my content pleases you, it would please me to have you as a subscriber. Thanks.